This mutation is called Masters of Midnight, and it is played on Part and Parcel. We have 3 mutators active, we have Life Leech, we have Fear, and we have Shortsighted. So not a particularly difficult set of mutators, but certainly very annoying. Let us have a look at the masteries. Dehaka has gone for 3 points into Devour Healing, 3 points into the Pack Leader Duration Mastery, and 3 points into the Dehaka Attack Speed Mastery. And Dehaka is playing, obviously, the Brood Brother Prestige. So this is B3 Dehaka. So B3 Dehaka is one of those commander prestiges where people, initially thought that would be really good, but after playing it a while, they realized that it is probably not as good as P0 Dehaka if you were playing it the way this thing was intended to be played. So the intended way of playing this prestige is to have both these guys go around and kill stuff and level up together. But what happens is, because the essence is now split among 2 of these Dehakas, what happens is that they don't actually scale as well in the early game as if you were just stacking it on one of these guys. And if you're stacking your essence on one of them, then you are basically playing P0 Dehaka, and by the time the guy gets to level 15, getting the other guy up at that point doesn't really matter because you have a really large army. So in general, there is not a lot of utility to playing Dehaka in this way. But there is one thing you can do with Dehaka, which is actually a bug, and that is if you're leveling up with this guy, Dehaka, and you keep Dehaka in the base, then if this guy dies, obviously Dehaka will die as well, but you're gonna get the drone eat timing duration based on Dehaka's level, which will be level 1 because he's not actually leveling. So it is a bug, and so you could have a level 15 Dehaka, but if he dies, then it only costs you 1 or 2 drones, or whatever the number is, to revive him, because Dehaka is still level 1, so he counts as a level 1. So that is usually one way that people usually pick P3, or at least a reason why they would play P3 is they want to try and exploit that bug which is currently existent and will probably never be patched. So there you go, guys. But we do have a few Zerglings now joining to the mix, and a lot of these part boxes being cleared. You can see here, Short-Sighted is being very annoying. The Fear is also kind of worrying, but it's not really much of an issue for Dehaka, especially as it scales throughout the later course of the game. Now, one thing to note about the Fear Mutator is that the Fear Mutator is the chance of Fear is dependent on the damage dealt to a unit. And when I mean damage dealt, it is after armor and after barrier considerations and whatnot. So any damage reduction will reduce also the chance that Fear will proc on the unit that is taking damage. So obviously commanders like Nova, where they have defensive drones, or Artanis, who has the shield overcharge, or Swan, who has his defensive matrices. I'm probably missing some other commanders, but any of those commanders' barrier abilities, like Artanis' Immortals as well, for example, they will absorb damage, and therefore the unit does not take damage, and therefore the unit will not be feared when those barriers are present on the unit. So if you are thinking of other commanders to try and play, those are some other options as well. And especially for this week mutation, there are a few commanders that are really good. I think I recommended Han and Horner for this mutation because their strike fire platforms can go and just snipe these part boxes directly. I think Nova might also be a reasonable pick here, not a particularly easy pick because Short-Sighted does cause a few problems for Nova, but you can check out the weekly mutation shorts because I have completely forgotten what commanders I have recommended for this week's mutation. But Dehaka and his bro are gonna go around and they're gonna slap Amon's forces back and forth, and actually very nicely this is also Zerg. So one thing to note as well is if you're playing this mutation and you are struggling a little bit, Zerg, believe it or not, might be one of the better enemy races to play up against because they have those defense bots moving around the map, and that basically means there are more parts available on the map for you to pick up. So Protoss in turn do not have those bots, so you almost need to, I think you need to almost fully clear the map to pick up all these part boxes if you're playing against Protoss or Terran. But if you're up against Zerg, these little defense bots that are running around and harass you every now and then, those guys will actually increase the number of parts that are available on the map, and that makes life a lot easier as well. So if you are struggling, you can start trying it up against Zerg. Glavik does get used over here, but unfortunately it is a... Actually, no, it was actually a really good shot there. He ended up hitting the entire thing here. Yeah, this is the defense spot I was talking about there. And yeah, so the Hybrid is ready to spawn, and Glavik again being utilized here to try and weaken these enemy forces. Very, very good use here. Glavik deep tunnels forward as well. Always use his deep tunnel ability to bunny hop Glavik forward and, you know, pick off enemy forces. It is... A lot of people do not realize that you can actually utilize this, and or at least they do not utilize this, and it actually is, you know, it's kind of wasteful because Glavik is a really, really powerful unit. And one thing to note as well is, like, you know, you can fire your incendiary acid like in his line of sight here, so just right on the front here, and the thing will go all the way through and deal damage, so it's not really limited. So that also gives another advantage to Glavik when you're playing up against Shortsighted. He really doesn't care when it comes to casting his incendiary acid ability. But expansion has been taken also for Dehaka, so he's going to start macroing up and building up his economy. We also have Dark Design here, so really good timings over here. And Dehaka has already gotten his level 1 attack upgrades, and he's also gotten his aerial burst axe upgrade. So aerial burst axe upgrade, very, very important for Mervar. Mervar does benefit from that as well, which makes her explosive creepers target air units. It allows them to target and hit and damage and kill air units. So that is a very important upgrade to get. Even though you're not using primal hosts, you should be, or creeper hosts, you should be getting this upgrade, because this upgrade is very, very convenient. The Hydralisk gets a little bit of airtime as well, and now this train is probably going to escape unless maybe Morvar gets utilized over here. I do not know, like a single Morvar can deal with this train, but I think it may be a little bit of a waste to try and just waste your recall down for this. And this is the other thing to also note. Again, if you are a newer player, I do know that even though Starcraft is not being developed anymore, there are a lot of new players to the community, and they're joining in, and they're having fun with co-op. Bonus objectives do not provide you with a worth it amount of experience to risk losing the game, or, you know, waste powerful cooldowns that you could have used elsewhere in other places that would, you know, benefit your gameplay and move you ahead. So to give you an idea, like a weekly mutation will give you about 200,000 experience. I can't remember the exact numbers. 250,000 experience. Your bonus objective experience is 5,000. Someone can tell me in the comments, and someone will yell at me for always forgetting what the number is. But it is like, it's almost insignificant, the amount of bonus objective experience that you will get here. So do bear that in mind. Do not waste powerful cooldowns. Like here over here, Morvar could have been used for the bonus objective, but Dehaka has opted correctly to use Morvar to start clearing and pushing into this enemy base, because Dehaka isn't particularly far ahead in the game. He's not, you know, he hasn't cleared out all the big chunks of the map. Remember that the expansion, this area and this area go up to clear up to only the first hybrid. So you do need to start weakening this area and, you know, clear the hybrid dominator that is here as well. So Dakron was actually focusing on soloing the hybrid, but unfortunately the hybrid has gotten the edge, or maybe Dakron actually just ended up timing out. But Morvar over here just taking a little stroll through the park of Amon's forces, and actually very effective use of Morvar over here. You can see the Morvar just was spawned over here, made all the way down here, cleared out that enemy base, and moved up over here and cleared out that enemy camp. So that entire swath of enemy forces was cleared out by Morvar. So, you know, what would you rather do? Would you rather clear this area out or go for the bonus objective? And do not answer in the comments. I do know what some people will say just to troll me, but Dehaka now is going to move towards this hybrid as well. One fun thing to note is in the older versions of the game, and this thing is patched out, so don't try this, but in the older versions of Starcraft, in the older versions of co-op, this map had a very interesting bug where you could leave the hybrid up and you could go and pick up part boxes and start racking up the counter. And once you hit the 70 parts that is required to spawn the second hybrid, the timer would pause permanently. So you could actually lengthen this map as long as you wanted. I think I may have a mutation cast where this was done. I cannot remember which one. I think it may have been a Tychus game on Part and Parcel, but I cannot for the life of me remember what the mutation was. But I think I casted a game where that bug was exploited. It doesn't exist anymore, it was patched out, it was fixed. But what you could do is you could basically pick up parts in advance and stop the hybrid, like, and the hybrid would just basically stand there forever until you killed it, and the timer would pause. So you can basically all clear the entire map, and then kill off the hybrid once you have a big army, and then you just go and clear the subsequent hybrids as well. Next attack wave gets promptly deleted as well by Glevig, and again here this is the other thing to note as well. Glevig is a fantastic cooldown to use for enemy attack waves because they move in a straight line, and guess what? Glevig's Uber ability also attacks in a straight line. It is a match made in heaven. So, Dehaka and Zoehaka both have a corruption debuff on them at the moment. That'll go away. And one of the brothers decides to go and nibble on one of these guardians over here. Second train has spawned as well. I don't know again if Dehaka really cares about the bonus objective. It doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, I think he probably will want to try and start pushing into this area as well. There is an infestor over here that is somewhat spazzing out. Dehaka wants to go and eat that infestor. Unfortunately, that infestor has run away, and Dehaka getting feared again. And remember, like, these things, like, Dehaka is like a massive, heroic, biological unit. There's the infestor who's back. Unfortunately, does get killed off by the greater primal worm over here. This train is probably also going to escape. No big deal. And there is one random creeper host over here. I do not know what that creeper host is. Okay, this creeper host just wants to hang out with Dehaka. He wants to see what's going on. He's just providing some feedback for Dehaka. So like asking Dehaka, have you tried slapping harder? Maybe if you slapped harder, then like you wouldn't have this problem. And that creeper host is probably going to get saved by Dehaka's fire breath. So that is very convenient. And now General Davis is going to start killing off these Zerg. So it's going to be a while before General Davis actually cuts through. For a robot that is supposed to be able to kill these hybrids, this thing actually kind of sucks. So I kind of wish also there was a little bit of mission design changes to this. Like, I would very much rather like it be like this mission be in 2 phases, and then player 1 controls the first phase, Balius, and player 2 controls the second phase, Balius, or something like that. It's randomized between the players. I think it would be a lot cooler if the player could control this, but I can also see speedrunners like Lilarin completely exploiting the hell out of that. I think that would be a little bit more fun than watching this potato AI just target random stuff and get butt kicked by a random hybrid on the map. But General Davis is going to now open up the boss hybrid over here, and Dehaka is somewhat confused as to where he wants to go. There's a stasis over here, so Dehaka is just going to promptly dodge over there. Very good usage of the creeper host here, keeping them reasonably out of range of this hybrid, and he's just going to start sending attack waves over. That one Zergling fearing this creeper host back and forth, and there is an attack wave that is moving towards Dehaka's expansion. So that expansion is going to get attacked at some point, but he has a deep tunnel ability as well. General Davis bailed out like a coward, and now leaves Dehaka to try and deal with this. There's another wave over here. This hybrid should be taking a good amount of damage here. The attack wave is almost on Dehaka's expansion. He uses Morvar over here. Morvar actually gets feared, which is kind of rare, but you can see here how Morvar just properly deletes this, waiting for the next spawn of Locust. Dehaka has cleared out the hybrid as well with the creeper hosts, and these creeper hosts now are going to be absolutely fantastic at sieging into enemy bases. Once you have a good number of creeper hosts, they can absolutely shred through enemy forces, and it really doesn't matter how entrenched these forces are. And you can see here Dehaka just sitting back, just waiting for these creeper hosts to do their thing, getting a little bit of vision, and now he's going to jump in. I don't think there are any psionic units over here, so he may want to like watch out. There's one queen over here. You can eat that, but instead decides to slap it instead. So there you go. And now these creeper hosts will need to be unburrowed and moved forward as well. There's an Ultralisk over here, so Dehaka's having none of it. Decides to eat it. And now Morvar again. Like I said, notice the utility of Morvar. It might have been accidental F2A move, but we'll just pretend it was very intentional. But see, the Morvar has moved in, and like I said, utilizing your cooldowns as effectively as possible, you can get a lot of mileage for your cooldowns. Remember, your cooldowns are more powerful than almost any unit that you have access to, especially in the early game. So the more you utilize your cooldowns, the more you use them as effectively as possible, the easier the game becomes. And I am throwing these little tips out for the newer players, newer people in the community. Even like I said before, there are a lot of newer players that are joining in and playing co-op. Co-op is a lot of fun, and it is also very grindy. I will be the first one to admit it is very grindy, but it is something that play a few games here and there. It is kind of fun. And this one defense bot just completely wrecked this creeper host. So there's an attack wave now moving towards Dehaka's main, so he will have to move over here. Now, I think maybe, like, it might have been a little bit better if just Dehaka moved in, but I see the reason why he wants to do this. Fear is a problem, especially when you have, like, Guardians and Devourers and stuff. Like, those things will start to attack, and they will actually cause you to get feared, and you'll end up losing your hero unit, which is probably not ideal. So I can see why those creeper hosts were moved back as well. But that is that area cleared. Now there are part boxes scattered all over the area. What I would normally do over here is just make a few Zerglings and just have them go in and just start like shift click through the areas of the map and just get them to pick up these part boxes, because there are a few parts here. There's one here. Like, all these areas are clear. There are no enemy forces in the spot. There might be some here, so it might be better to just go and send a few Zerglings over. And that is something you can do as well. Like, if you want to try and like rush through this mission so you don't have to deal with the scary attack waves, what you can do is clear out enemy bases with Dehaka and your creeper hosts and whatnot, and then whatever part boxes are left, just send a bunch of Zerglings to clear it. This especially helps in the early game where you're trying to rush to get your expansion out. So what you do is you send Dehaka over, you clear this area out, then send some Zerglings to clean up, and you can do whatever you want as well in the other areas on the map. But again, very nice siege of creeper hosts over here. These creeper hosts are going to be pushing in. All these explosive creepers will be picking off a good chunk of these forces here. Spore Crawler goes down. There are a few Broodlords over here, but those things also get killed off by the creeper host, and now the creeper host will be able to move in. There's one last Broodlord over here. Some more slapping going on as well, and these part boxes will be picked up. And as you can see, there's 5 minutes left on the timer, so Dehaka will have to hurry up. But anyway, the Mobius hybrid is ready to spawn, so General Davis will be a little while. So over here, Dehaka jumps in, devours the hybrid dominator, and that creates a psionic fart, which will end up clearing out a good chunk of the units here as well. Docran now joining into the fray to help as well. These creeper hosts are actually a little bit too far ahead. They should have been here and they should be burrowed. They will get attacked a little bit by the enemy forces. Enemy forces, like I said, will focus fire down these creeper hosts, but now that Dehaka and Docran are on the front line, it should not be too much of a problem. Dehaka now are going to start clearing the rest of these forces out, and now there is just one last Ultralisk here. Ultralisk will also end up going down, and this area is going to fall very, very quickly on the next wave of locusts that will be spawning. And there's an attack wave as well coming up here. This attack wave is going to plant face first into Dehaka. Dehaka has a very nice Devourer over here. I don't know whether he actually got that, or no, he ended up melting, because there were probably Devourers and Guardians on the back there. So Dehaka is getting completely wrecked. But Morvar and Docran are here with the backup of the explosive creepers, and those things should be able to clear out the rest of these enemy forces. And again, General Davis has just started moving across the map, so it's going to be a few more seconds before that happens. There is in the back part of the attack wave, those are probably the Guardians? Yeah, those are the Guardians. And yeah, those Guardians are going to end up going down as well. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with this kind of composition, this is the Devouring Scourge composition, the Guardians tend to... They are like slower moving units, so they tend to like trail behind when you are dealing with attack waves. So do bear that in mind when you are engaging attack waves like that. The attack waves will usually be split into the part that wrecks you, which contains like the Devourers and the Mutalisks and all that stuff, and then there'll be the Guardians on the back. So General Davis now is going to be duking it out with a hybrid. Hybrid casts a stasis ability here. Does end up catching out Glevic, which is somewhat unfortunate for Glevic, but Glevic will be out in no time. And now the explosive creepers are going to be sent towards this hybrid. This hybrid is going to melt pretty quickly as well. There's a lot of damage output here for Dehaka. Dehaka also sitting at level 3 Primal Attack upgrades. And take a look at his upgrades. He basically has gotten every single upgrade that he needs, which is the 3 attack upgrades and his aerial burst sacks. And that is pretty much all that Dehaka needs for clearing out this mutation. So very, very well played here for Dehaka. That is a hybrid cleared out. The Mobius facility has been sabotaged, and that is GG.